So we're talking about the impact of inflation. Let's start with that. Impact of inflation. And what we are going to try to figure out today is not how we calculate inflation, but what we want to know is when inflation happens, is it bad for our economy? Okay? And my answer to that is it depends. Okay? And it really depends on whether or not we are expecting the inflation or not. So below this, let's put anticipated versus unanticipated inflation, because that's really what we're going to look into today. Put anticipated versus unanticipated. Inflation. So the reason why I tell you what we expect inflation to be, okay, because when we expect inflation or anticipate inflation to be at a certain rate, and the inflation rate falls within that rate, typically what we find is that that sort of inflation doesn't really have that significant of an impact on people in that economy. And the whole reason why is because we have the opportunity to prepare for that inflation. Okay? As a worker, you have the opportunity to make sure that you're going to be making, money that can cover that increase in prices over the course of the year. Business owners are going to do the same thing. They're going to prepare to make sure that they can accommodate or can withstand the inflation that's coming. So every different part of the economy will prepare for whatever we expect the inflation to be. Okay? So, and I always think of that as if I told you that there was a hurricane that was going to come, right, and hit, West Michigan, and we had time to prepare, we would do things to make it so the impact of the hurricane would be smaller, right? You'd board your windows up, you would buy food, you would, whatever you got to do, you would do so that way it would minimize the impact of the hurricane. That's what we do with inflation. We prepare throughout the course of the year so that whatever the inflation rate is, if it's 1 to 3%, we're ready for it, and the effect is going to be minimal. Okay? So let's just jot down anticipated inflation. Put anticipated inflation. And we're going to say that the effect of this inflation is minimal. The effect of this inflation is minimal because individuals can prepare. So as economists, we're really not concerned about anticipated inflation. If I told you that the inflation rate is going to be 1 to 3% and it's 1 to 3%, no harm done for the most part. Okay? But the problem lies when we have inflation that is greater than what we expect it to be. Okay? Which we're going to call unanticipated or unexpected inflation. Let's just put down here unanticipated inflation. And we'll put that the effect of this inflation is greater the effect of this inflation is greater because individuals do not have the opportunity to prepare. Because individuals do not have the opportunity to prepare. Okay, now we're going to talk about this unanticipated inflation just a little bit. So I'm going to add a bullet point underneath unanticipated inflation, and we're going to say that unanticipated inflation impacts our real wages and our real interest rates. Okay, and then we'll explain. So we'll put unanticipated inflation impacts real wages and interest rates. And so again, just like we talked about with GDP, any real value or real statistic is going to be a statistic that is adjusted for inflation. So when this inflation happens, okay, it's going to impact these real values, okay? And so our formula to calculate these real values is going to be real equals nominal minus inflation. Real equals nominal minus inflation. If we go back and look at that question, question 8 off the quiz, this is the formula that you should have used for that. You're trying to calculate the real, I don't think it was the real wage, and the nominal increased by 10%, and the inflation went up by 4%, and so our real value was 6%. I think that's what the question was all about. Okay, and that means that the inflation took away from that increase in nominal. Because remember, nominal is not adjusted for inflation. Real is adjusted. Okay, and so whenever you are asked to calculate the percent change in real value, this is the formula that you will use. Real equals nominal minus inflation. And we can jot that example down. We'll say there's an increase in nominal wage equal to 10%. And let's say there's an increase in inflation equal to 4%. And so using my formula, the real equals the 10% nominal minus inflation, which would be 6% increase in real wage. So the money that you're taking home, you're taking 10% more money home, but that money will not buy 10% more stuff. It will only buy 6% more stuff. That make sense? Why? Because the inflation rate went up by 4%. That's the idea. Okay? Now, we're going to quickly make a list, and then we will be done. When we have this unanticipated inflation, we have people that benefit and people that lose. We're going to put losers and winners of unanticipated inflation. Losers and winners of unanticipated inflation. Let's start with losers. These are people that are going to be hurt when inflation goes up by more than what we expect it to be. And our losers are people that receive fixed income earner, because their income is set. So when prices go up, they don't get more money. They're set with a certain amount, so the increase in inflation is going to hurt them then. Okay? Next, loser is a saver. Don't tell Mr. Schwalm that savers are actually losers. Okay? But what happens is you're saving, you're earning an interest rate while you save. But when the inflation rate goes up by more than what we expect, okay, that's going to make it so the amount that you're actually gonna make for saving is going to actually fall. Okay, the inflation rate, the prices outside of your savings account are going up faster than the amount you're earning by saving in interest. Okay, and we'll talk about that a little bit more tomorrow. And then the last loser is a lender. And a lender is typically going to be a bank. But anybody can be a lender. Okay? But just remember, lenders always lose. Okay? Lenders always lose because a lender loans out dollars. Okay? And they're going to get those dollars back over time. But when there's inflation, the dollars that they get back over time are going to have less value than the dollars that they loaned out. That's not cool. No one loans money and says, hey, just make sure you're giving me money that's close to what, this value is. You don't do that. You want to make sure you're getting your money back over time. But inflation does not allow that to happen, okay? And then hold on real quick. There's one person that wins. We'll put the winner is the borrower. The borrower is always going to benefit. Okay? That list will help you with the reinforcement questions for tonight.